Hello, everyone. Today's episode might change how you see the origins of civilization. Not in Mesopotamia, not in Egypt, but right here in the islands of Japan. Yes, Japan may hold the earliest traces of human activity on Earth. Recent discoveries suggest people were living here more than 38,000 years ago. That's thousands of years earlier than we thought. Welcome to our channel, where we dive into Japanese history and mysteries. If you love hidden stories and ancient truths, you're in the right place. This video is podcast style perfect while commuting, cooking, or relaxing. And before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Rethinking the dawn of civilization. When you think about the origins of civilization, what comes to mind? Most people might say Mesopotamia, often dubbed the cradle of civilization, or Egypt, with its towering pyramids and rich Nile culture. These are the giants of ancient history, the ones we learn about in school. But what if that narrative is incomplete? What if the earliest chapters of human history were actually written far from the Middle East in the far eastern islands of Japan? It might sound surprising, even controversial, but compelling evidence is challenging what we thought we knew. Recent archaeological finds across Japan suggest that humans were living here, not 10,000 or 20,000 years ago, but over 38,000 years ago. That's tens of thousands of years earlier than most conventional theories suggest for organized, skillful human presence in this region. Let's break this down. Across the Japanese archipelago, from Hokkaido in the north to Kyushu in the south, archaeologists have uncovered more than 10,000 Paleolithic sites. That's not a typo. Over 10,000. To give that some context, South Korea has about 50 sites from the same period. Even in China, many Paleolithic locations remain sparse by comparison. So why Japan? Japan's unique geography may hold the key. These islands offered abundant resources: forests, rivers, and coastlines with 4 distinct seasons and rich biodiversity. A stable, predictable environment. It's a place where early humans could not just survive, but thrive. But survival is only part of the story, because what we're seeing at these sites isn't just about staying alive. It's about craftsmanship, intelligence, culture. Take the tools they left behind. Many were made from obsidian, a type of volcanic glass. Obsidian is razor sharp and hard to shape. It breaks unpredictably, requires control and knowledge to work with. Yet early Japanese humans were not only using it, they were mastering it. They didn't just chip away at rocks. They shaped precise cutting tools, scrapers, arrowheads, and blades. This suggests advanced planning, steady hands, and probably instruction passed down over generations. These weren't cavemen in the way pop culture portrays. They were artisans. They selected materials based on location and quality. They refined their tools for specific purposes. They left behind evidence of long-term thinking and practical engineering. And what's even more fascinating, obsidian was often sourced from very specific sites like Kozushima in the Izu Islands, then distributed hundreds of kilometers away. How did they transport it? How did they know where it came from? These questions lead us to a bigger idea. Japan's earliest humans weren't just surviving. They were forming networks. They were communicating, exchanging knowledge and goods. They were connected. In short, what's emerging from these ancient stones is not just a timeline adjustment. It's a paradigm shift. The very definition of civilization might need rewriting. Not just cities, writing systems, and agriculture, but intention, craft, navigation, trade, meaning. Japan's early inhabitants were doing things we didn't expect. And now, piece by piece, we're finally starting to understand how much further back our story really goes. The first seafarers. So how did they get to Japan? Remember, Japan is a group of islands. Kyushu, Okinawa, these weren't connected to the mainland. To arrive, people had to cross the sea. And they did. In 2016, a team recreated this journey. They tried crossing from Taiwan to Okinawa using Stone Age technology. A grass raft failed, but a dugout canoe crafted from a single tree trunk made it. They used no GPS, no compass, just the stars, ocean currents, and wind. And they reached Okinawa. This means our ancestors weren't just lucky survivors. They were navigators. They watched the sky, read the water, and understood nature deeply. Early trade and exchange. What's more, they didn't stay put. Obsidian from Kozushima, Izu Islands, and Wada Pass. Nagano has been found as far as Hokkaido and Kyushu. This means long-distance trade. They sailed, exchanged, and built connections. They weren't isolated tribes. They were early traders, maintaining routes that spanned the archipelago. It's not an exaggeration to say they created Japan's first supply chains, hunting with strategy. At the Funado site in Kanagawa, 13 pitfall traps were discovered, not randomly placed but perfectly aligned. This shows knowledge of animal behavior and coordinated effort. It wasn't just chasing prey. It was intelligent design, a primitive form of group strategy, advanced fishing and season planning. In Okinawa, archaeologists discovered a fishing hook made from a shell. It's 23,000 years old, the oldest of its kind. It was used to catch large, deep-sea fish. The fish bones found nearby show seasonal variation. This suggests our ancestors fished with timing and intention. They had a mental calendar. They understood not just the ocean, but the cycles of nature. That's not just surviving. That's thriving with foresight, signs of belief and beauty. Among the ruins were obsidian ornaments and carvings. Not tools, not weapons. These were made to express something. Maybe status, maybe prayer, maybe identity. But they weren't necessary for survival. They were made because humans crave meaning. Civilization doesn't begin with fire or farming. It begins with art, belief, and shared symbols. The rise of settlements, Jomon era. Let's fast forward to about 16,000 years ago, when the Jomon period began. It marks a monumental shift in human life in Japan. No longer just roaming hunter-gatherers, the people here began to settle. They built homes. They stored food. They created community. But the Jomon era wasn't just a turning point for Japan. It was a landmark for human civilization globally. Take Sanai Maruyama, a massive archaeological site in Aomori Prefecture. This site reveals a permanent village where over 500 people once lived. That's not just a few huts, we're talking about organized society. Large pit dwellings, storage pits, roads, community centers. These people weren't just surviving, they were thriving together. They invented pottery, and not just for cooking, but for storing food long term. That's revolutionary, because once you can store food, you can build stability. You can support more people. You can plan ahead. You start to build the future. Jomon pottery is among the oldest in the world, and it wasn't purely functional. It was decorative. Some vessels have intricate rope-like patterns, suggesting artistic flair and perhaps even symbolic meaning. This tells us something profound. These early people didn't just want to live. They wanted to express. They valued beauty, identity, and perhaps spirituality. Evidence also suggests that Jomon people understood seasonality. Analysis of fish bones at sites indicates that they caught different species in different seasons. They knew when the salmon came. They anticipated the return of migratory birds. This was long-term ecological knowledge, passed down generations. Even more impressive is their knowledge of resource management. They harvested nuts and fruits, but also planted trees like chestnuts. That's right, they practiced proto-agriculture. And their homes? Some were huge, up to 10 meters wide with central hearths. These weren't makeshift shelters. They were permanent structures, built to last, built for family. And the people weren't isolated. Artifacts from distant regions, obsidian, shells, jade show that they traded across great distances. They were part of an expansive, sophisticated network. In essence, the Jomon era challenges what we consider primitive, because these people lived in harmony with nature, valued community and creativity, and built a world with rhythm, ritual, and resilience. This wasn't a slow crawl to civilization. It was a flourishing. It was intentional, and it began thousands of years before what we typically recognize as the dawn of complex society. What it all means. We often think of Paleolithic people as primitive, but they weren't. They were innovators. They mastered land, sea, and sky. They built societies, passed down knowledge, and crafted with care. Their story is our story. Their struggles and discoveries shape the DNA of Japanese culture. Even now, when we plan, build, or cooperate, we echo their footsteps. Final reflection, so next time you look at the night sky, remember those stars once guided your ancestors across oceans. When you hold something delicate and handcrafted, know that your people have cherished craft for 30,000 years. The past isn't gone. It lives inside us. Closing words. Thanks for joining this deep dive into ancient Japan. If this sparked your curiosity, please like, comment, and subscribe. What part amazed you most? What should we explore next? Until then, stay curious, stay proud, and never stop exploring where you come from.